All right, welcome everyone. My name is Bezdedeanu. I am the recruitment specialist for the College of Arts and Sciences and the Maxwell School. Just wanted to say welcome everyone. I know we have both admitted and prospective high school students on the call tonight. But looking forward to spending some time with you all for the next hour or so to talk about a really great opportunity we have here at Syracuse called the Maxwell-in-Washington Program. So I myself, a little bit about me before we get started. I did go to Syracuse. I am a proud alum. I got a degree in policy studies and citizenship and civic engagement. And during my time at Syracuse, I also did participate in the DC program. But rather than telling you about my experience, we were joined by three awesome students tonight who did the program, I think all last semester in the fall. Is that correct? Sweet. So we have some information to share with you all. There'll be time to kind of hear about their experience, and then also time for you to ask any questions of either them or myself as well. So before we get started, though, I'd like to have each of them introduce themselves. So Aiden, because you're sort of first on the screen here, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm Aiden. Is there an echo going on? I'm in a classroom right now.
No, you're good.
I'm Aiden. I'm from Manchester, New Hampshire. I'm studying political science. Um, Last semester, I was at the Government Accountability Office. I did an internship at the Government Accountability Office. I had a lot of fun. I met a lot of great people. That's why I'm happy to answer Chris's phone call anytime he calls and says, "Hey, we're talking to prospective students." Because I did genuinely love the Maxwell and DC program. So I hope you can get a taste of the energy that we had down there. But
And
yeah,
Aiden,
thanks for coming.
thanks for missing class to be here too.
My pleasure.
Nick, you want to go next?
Gladly. Hey, folks, I'm Nick. I'm a senior doing political science and international relations. Last semester, I was working at a think tank, the Foreign Policy Research Institute, with their Asia program. And I'd have to say the DC program was my absolute best semester. So I'm really excited to talk to you all about it and look forward to going more in depth.
And last but not least, Megan.
Hi guys, my name is Megan. I'm a senior at Syracuse. I'm a policy studies major and also a pre-law student here. Last semester I was a White House intern in DC. I absolutely loved the DC semester, had a lot of fun with Aiden and Nick. And I definitely am excited to talk to you guys today about it. It was one of my favorite semesters as a senior applying to Syracuse from high school. I knew right away that the Maxwell and DC program was one of the reasons why I wanted to come, and it definitely did not disappoint. So,
Awesome. So we'll hear more about sort of all their shared experiences. Would also love to hear more about your internships with all those different organizations. I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to start our presentation portion of the evening. But then we're also going to have some time for questions in a little while as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them now in the chat or sort of as you go through the presentation, and we'll be sure to get to those towards the end. So once again, welcome. So the Washington semester through the Maxwell School, the really great thing about it, sort of off the top, is that it's open to any major at Syracuse. Of course, we mostly attract students in the Maxwell School, so with majors in political science, international relations, history, economics, but also students in arts and sciences or communications or business. Really open to any student that's interested in sort of participating and spending a semester in DC. It only happens during the fall and the spring, so we don't currently offer a summer semester opportunity. But the DC program itself is a time when you will go down to campus. We have a really great relationship there with the Center for Strategic and International Studies. They host all of our students. We have Syracuse offices there and some classes as well. It's a fairly small group. So again, all three of these students participated in the fall semester. Would you guys say it's about like 15 to 18 or like 20 students at most for the whole thing? And then usually for students that are at least juniors or seniors. And so the main reason being is that many students, such as I think a couple on this call, were able to use their sort of DC experience as a launching pad to future careers jobs after graduation, as I think are all of you seniors too. Is that correct? Awesome.
Yes.
Just making sure. Yeah, so really great opportunities, but usually for many students who are, like I said, juniors, seniors, we will take some sophomores, but sort of more on a limited basis. So kind of diving again right into it. Why should you participate in the Maxwell-in-Washington program? Why DC? The truth is you're going to get, and I think, our panelists sort of alluded to this in their introductory remarks, we're going to get a real inside view of the policy process, how it works in DC. And oftentimes there's going to be a focus on either foreign policy, international affairs, but the really big focus that you're going to hear our program director talk a lot about is you're going to understand how Washington works, how policy is made, how different levers are pulled, how relationships really matter a lot in a lot of these organizations or companies or government agencies that you're going to sort of work in. And then I mentioned CSIS, they host many of our classes there, and you're going to participate in seminars taught by some really awesome faculty who are not just professors, but also practitioners in their field. And so all of the faculty in DC are actively, whether it's doing research, involved in some sort of policy field currently in Washington, and they dedicate sort of their time outside of their 9-to-5 job to sort of teach these Maxwell courses. And hopefully we'll get to hear some stories from some of our panelists about some of those professors as well. And I think the most important highlight, though, is that you're going to gain some really awesome real world experience as a college student. So for many of you on the call tonight, might be thinking you want to potentially live and work in DC someday. It's going to be a real opportunity for you to really take sort of a trial basis for a few months during a fall or spring semester, explore areas of interest. And of course, with the focus being around your internship, spend a lot of time working on your professional skills, really being able to act like an adult sort of out in the real world as a college student, of course, with resources and some supervision that we provide through the center as well. Now, to hear from some of our faculty or hear about some of our faculty, I'm not going to read sort of their bios, sort of in depth here, but to really give you an idea of the types of people that are going to be leading the classes. So remember when I was down in DC, Dr. Casey, Dr. Gonda, and Professor Johnson were three of my professors that I had down there. But I think most recently, we had a few others on here. I think Gonda and Casey, but Nita Jankowicz, and then who's the one at the top here? Mr. Fulton Armstrong. Sorry, my screen was sort of covering it. But really, as you can see here, some impressive things that they've been able to accomplish in their careers, whether they are internationally known experts, research associates, again, sort of hosts of different shows and sort of in different areas of the media talking about politics and many of the things that you're going to learn a lot about during your time here as well. And so a question for each of our panelists, just briefly while we're sort of talking about faculty and professors. Could you tell us about one of the faculty members you had? And it's okay if it's the same one, just like something you remember from your time in the DC program with one of our faculty down there at the center.
I could start. So Professor Hack, who's on the bottom, she's a news anchor, and that was super exciting to have class with her as well. My roommate was interning on the Hill for Senator Jayapal, and she would consistently see Professor Hack on the TV screen, and she would alert her, other staffers and colleagues in the office. She'd be like, "That's my professor. I'm going to see her in class later tonight." So, having that interaction with the news anchor and just learning more from her and from different perspectives that she could offer. We were in a mis and disinformation class, was super interesting. And it was a very unique experience. We all got very close with her, and she was able to actually take us out to dinner at the end just because the class was so small and tight knit.
Just adding on to that, I had one experience when I was taking Naira Hawk's class where I was commuting. I got off of the metro and I was walking on my way to the CSIS building, and I just looked into a random window and saw Naira's face on TV, on the news. Like, she regularly gives expert advice on news stations. And so there were multiple times throughout the program that we saw her, and she has really good connections from her time at the White House as a news correspondent. So she also did like guests presentations in our class, which was super engaging, which is also something that Fulton Armstrong does as well. And so there's just really good opportunities on top of the professors that we have to also connect with people outside of our professors from all walks of life throughout DC.
Yeah, I love Naira Hawk. She's one of my favorite professors I've had at DC. I'll speak to Fulton Armstrong and Chris Casey a little bit. Chris Casey is the ultimate Californian. Won't shut up about being from California, but it's fantastic. He is so knowledgeable about everything DC and California. And so, you kind of give him stick for being from California. Anyway, he would just pull up like just random policies that were passed in 1986. He'd be like, "Oh, that was a House of Reps session. I don't know." And you're like, "What are you doing with your life, Dr. Casey? Like, why are you able to just pull that off the top of your head?" And then Professor Armstrong has to be one of the most interesting people to have conversations with. He was in the National Security Council in the 80s and during Bill Clinton's time as president. And so he just has story after story after story of, "Oh yeah, I was in the Situation Room when they made this decision, and boy, can I tell you, that was just stupid from beginning to end." And you're like, "Fulton, like this is our national security we're dealing with. Like, can we be a little bit more serious about it?" But no, I thoroughly enjoyed all three professors. Fulton was here last week with a delegation from the Chinese embassy, and she gave us a text kind of last minute. "Hey, we want to do it we want to convene a few students, so you guys around." So everybody dropped everything they were doing on like a Monday night. I think it was the day before the solar eclipse. Or no, it was the day after the solar eclipse.
Day after, yeah.
And it was just good seeing him. Great conversation. We got to meet with the minister counselor of the Chinese embassy in DC. So great conversations all around.
Yeah.
And
So
another note on Chris Casey, apologies.
go for it.
He taught, I think it was just global economy, if I got that right. That was the first good econ class I ever took. It was really fun in ways that you wouldn't expect. Because like Aiden says, like he just has so much infinite knowledge that he knows how to deliver it in a really engaging way, even if you're not interested in econ.
I can add on to that too, as someone who's a full heart humanities person. Math and I are just not the best of friends. I'm sure many of you out there can relate. And if you take Professor Casey's class, you will understand the content material. Like he will teach to someone who's super STEM heavy or someone who's not STEM heavy, and you'll still have a good time and enjoy it. I think something that really makes this program unique is the fact that we're getting access to these types of professors, the fact that it's a super small program, everyone gets to know each other. And it's just, there's a lot of opportunity that comes with it. These professors are working in the fields. Chris Casey works for, what is it? Aiden and Nick, he works for the Congressional Research Center. Yeah, Congressional Research Center. So he's just very knowledgeable. Like he works there at the same time. So it's a nice complement to his teaching that you might not have access to.
And oftentimes for many of these courses, and correct me if I'm wrong, we will be reading sort of their written works or different, policy summaries from Casey, or a book that Nina wrote, or an interview that Naira Hawk participated in as sort of your course content. So being able to learn from people who are able to really make a difference in those fields, we think is sort of putting you at the forefront of these policy issues, and also allowing for some really great discussion, not just with your classmates, but also with some really great experts and, like, again, practitioners in that field as well. So thank you for sort of adding on to that and kind of giving us some perspective on those relationships. Now, sort of going forward, talking about sort of what the courses and the schedule looks like, this really gives you a good idea of sort of the day-to-day life that you're going to have in DC. So as I mentioned, and we'll talk about this in a couple minutes, but the program is really centered around your internship. We have many students that intern. I know, Megan, you said you're at the White House, the GAO, Foreign Policy Council, students that intern for different embassies, other government agencies, private sector, nonprofits, public sector works as well. And so usually Monday through Thursday, you're going to spend a lot of time at your interview site, maybe even in some cases Monday through Friday. And then in the evenings, have the option to take a couple different classes. Usually it's 2 to 3 classes plus the global policy seminar on Fridays. And so these are some of the courses that we had offered in the prior semester. Things on, global policy seminars, Professor Casey's class on global political economy issues, but also I know Megan mentioned the disinformation and influence in the digital age. Again, taught by a really great faculty. Classes on human rights or politics, power, and global sport. And so the chance to take some really interesting discussion-based classes that really also help to fuel, not just the current events that are happening in Washington, but also maybe in some cases, a lot of the internship experiences that you're going to have as students as well. Do you guys mind sharing what classes you took when you were in DC and sort of what those were like? And maybe also explain more about the global policy seminar on Fridays and what experiences you had through there as well.
Yeah, I can start. I took Chris Casey's class on global political economy issues. I took Nair Hawk's class on media diplomacy in the modern era, and then everybody does the global policy seminar. The 2 classes with Nair Hawk and Chris Casey, they're once a week. They're engaged conversations. Sometimes we watch what Nair Hawk was doing on MSNBC that week, and we're like, well, this wasn't a great talking point by your adversary, and so it's a lot of fun. For Fulton Armstrong's class on Fridays, it's from like 9 in the morning and usually until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But what's great about that class is you're not sitting in a classroom for that. We have about a 20-minute discussion in the morning. We really try and cram it in because then we have a very interesting speaker come in. General Milley came in a couple semesters ago. He was chief of the Security Council, chief of the whatever you call it. Can't
National
remember.
Security Council.
There you go. I wasn't in DC long enough, I guess. So a lot of interesting speakers come in. We have a lunch break for about an hour, and then usually in the afternoon we have a nice little excursion, a field trip around DC. So they usually go to the Pentagon every semester. There's the Spy Museum we went to. That was a lot of fun. So I know we went to a few other places, but those are the 2 that spoke to me the most. The Spy Museum, of course.
So I can jump in too. My semester looked a little bit different because I was a White House intern. Depending on, so I guess this is a disclosure. So you will apply for your internships outside of the Maxwell School, and there'll be assistance in terms of getting it, in terms of writing cover letters and resumes and letters of recommendation. And they consistently check in with you during the summer. They'll just be like, where are you with your internship process? But depending upon where you land, you have 2 different types of internships. You can have a 6-credit internship, which is what my experience was, or you can have a 3-credit internship. So because my internship was 6 credits, unfortunately, I did not get to take Professor Fulton's class. However, I do love him. And I did leave work one time to go to the Pentagon, and I told my boss it was the Pentagon, and I had to go. But as a result, I took the disinformation and influence in the digital age class with Professor Naira Hack. And that was great. And she was consistently on CNN or MSNBC. So taking that class was, super interesting. And then I also took the global political economy issues class with Professor Casey. And that one was also great. So as a result of having a 6-credit internship, I was working Monday through Friday. And then I would have those 2 classes twice a week. So they definitely, depending upon where you land and what you want to do, I feel like the program is great in terms of adjusting your schedule in order to have classes, but then also balance an internship. And I wasn't the only one who had a 6-credit internship. It just really depends on where you're landing and what your goals are. But you can also still, I tagged along to the visit on the, going to the Pentagon with, Professor Fulton's class. So even if you're in a different internship, there are definitely still opportunities for you to go to other events if you're interested in going to them. I think it's just really having the experience of working in DC is something extremely unique that the Maxwell program provides that also you gain a lot through the classes too.
And then I, like Aiden, did a 3-credit internship. And so like him, I did classes Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, with Naira Hawk on Tuesday, Chris Casey Wednesday, and then Fulton Armstrong Friday. And I felt like even though that might seem like a light course load, in many ways it is, like very much agreed with my internship. And neither felt too light nor too intense. And overall, like I just had a really good balance between work and education with all these classes. And sometimes if we were lucky, our classes we even finish early, which was always nice.
Yeah. And then I know on Thursday nights, there's sometimes room for any like sort of professional development events. Did you guys do any of those during the semester, or really just other like fun events that you'd get together for sort of outside of class, outside of internships during the week?
Yeah, we did a few of the professional events on Thursdays. Probably the best one, in my opinion, was when we went to an alumni mixer. I think that was Thursday. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But one amazing thing that the program did for us in my semester was they connected us with Syracuse alumni who work in the DC area. So for me, like I want to work in foreign service. So they put me in touch with an alumni who works in the State Department that we got to go meet at this mixer. And then there was just a couple other different ones. The main one that comes to mind was like the Keirsey assessment, which is like basically a Myers-Briggs type thing. And then they connect that to like professional development.
Aiden, I see you laughing. Anything to add?
Yeah, it was a good time doing like some of the professional development things. Not everybody went to all of them, but I really loved the Keirsey assessment. Uh, it was it was like, if I remember correctly, we were all exhausted from that week. Something had gone on. I forget what it was, but something had gone on. It was a really exhausting week, and then we got an email like, "Hey, there's a free dinner. Like, we'll give you dinner, and then you go on to do this personality quiz." I don't if that's what it was. And so everybody was like had the mentality of, "Oh, this is going to be dreadful." And what ended up happening was we all kind of like were making jokes about each other, like, um, "Oh, Nick, that's so you. You're so introverted. Like, what a loser." No, but it was I had a great time with that one. I think honestly, I think that was my favorite, just because of how serious it was supposed to be and how unserious we made it. Yeah, that was definitely my favorite.
I made it fun.
Yeah, of course. That's part of the DC program is you make fun with what's given to you. And Nick, I kind of disagree with Nick. He said, oh, 3 courses and an internship seems like a lot. I disagree. Like, part of my recovery during the week was going to these classes because the professors were engaged, and you're like, it's almost like a hangout session, and it's like a guided conversation with a professor. It's not here's the class material, you have to learn it. There's a quiz at the end of next week. No, like they're lenient assignments. Professors there know you have an internship, and so it's more of a, let's just discuss what you know or what you found out over the last couple weeks on this topic, and that's mostly your grade.
All right, so now the focus of why maybe a lot of you are here tonight, but to really talk about some of the internship opportunities and hear what some of our current and former students have done. So as they were kind of alluding to, you're going to take each class for 3 credits, and then your internship may be either 3 or 6 credits, depending on how much time you're going to spend sort of at that location during the week. And as we alluded to earlier, as you can sort of see from our different panelists, you can intern with the White House, different government agencies, again, nonprofits, private sector, usually 3 to 4 days a week, if not Monday through Thursday, at least Monday through Wednesday, unless like Megan, you have some more of a longer internship hours of a Monday through Friday. These are not guaranteed placements, though. You really have to search. You have to be the one to apply for these internships and negotiate positions, negotiate offers if you have multiple of them. And you're going to get a lot of assistance, not just from our career services here on campus, but our DC staff down at our Maxwell and DC Center that is able to, they have connections, they have a network of professional connections that they're able to connect you with if you're looking for certain internships, looking to intern in certain places, or also able to sort of advise you when it comes time to negotiating, pay for an internship or other things related to it. I will also say that not all these internships are paid opportunities. In fact, we might even have some of our panelists that are maybe open to telling us about their experience. These are all going to be taken for credit. You may be one of the few lucky students that is able to take the internship for pay, but it's also, very possible that many of these are going to be unpaid internships. So they're going to give you some really great experience. So I know, for example, many of the internships in Congress, many of the internships with your local or state reps or senators, many of them are unpaid or offered like a small stipend of maybe a few $1,000s for the semester. There's some that are paid hourly, some that are in terms of paid sort of a set amount over the course of the whole semester. It really depends, though, on where you're looking, what opportunities you're after, and we're ultimately able to sort of get out of that as well. I also know there was a question about if the program is exclusive to only domestic students. The answer to that question is no. International students can enroll in the program. I will also say, in addition to that, certain government agencies may require you to fill out some additional paperwork as an international student, or there might be some restrictions depending if you're international or domestic student on certain positions you may or may not be able to have. And that's just sort of a thing that in DC, it's not Syracuse specific, but something that's sort of really relative to a lot of the positions down there as well. So this doesn't even scratch the surface of the list of opportunities that are sort of available for internships in DC. I also like to think that usually the fall and spring terms are less competitive than a lot of summer internships in DC. But also like to hear from some of our panelists on sort of their experience. And if you're comfortable sharing, if your internship was paid, what that was like, and also what you were doing as a part of it as well.
Yeah, I see a few questions just coming in the chat.
Yeah.
One thing I just want to address, like Terry asked, how far in advance do you have to apply for the semester? Like, or how far in advance do you have to apply for an internship? That depends on agency. Like places like the White House, the CIA usually have to apply like a year out. That wasn't the case with the GAO. I came into the DC semester without an internship, applied while I was there. That was a bit stressful. I wouldn't recommend it. But it was possible to get an internship after being in the DC program. At the DC program, the application for the actual program, that usually is in early semester, the semester before you go. So I went in the fall semester. I had applied probably last March or February. So that's about the timeline. I was at the GAO, the Government Accountability Office. I was working in their Chief Human Capital Office. The most rewarding thing about that internship is I learned after a few months of being there is that, I thought that might be the place for me when I want to graduate. When I graduate, it turns out I don't think I'd go back. But it was a great program. I made a lot of connections. It just wasn't the work for me. And there were a few people in our program who had the same sentiment towards their internship, but ultimately we came away with valued information about what we want to do in the future post grad.
I can add on to that. And I saw Terry's question, tried to answer it, but I can address it a bit further now. As Aiden said, it just depends on the organization or agency. So I was a White House intern. I applied for that. It wasn't a year out. It was like the semester before I was studying abroad in Strasbourg, France. So I applied for that internship then. And then the fall, I was a White House intern. But in terms of the Maxwell DC program, you apply for that program first, because I remember the semester before we already had like an admitted students session with Max DC. Like towards the end of the semester, we were meeting people, picking roommates. But again, like throughout that entire process, there literally is someone in the Maxwell DC office who's in charge of like internships, and like there's someone in charge of housing and meeting people. So like they will be with you every step of the way. And that was super helpful as well. Um, I really liked my internship. It definitely had its pros and cons. I think one of my favorite things about it was definitely the exposure of, different people I was able to meet. I was consistently escorting like people from different embassies and having the privilege of going into different rooms, and like it was a great internship. I definitely was exhausted some of the time, working, sometimes very, very long hours, but it just drove my passion for, public service and policy, and knowing that that's the field that I want to be in. And meeting a lot of other people from a bunch of different schools was great. I think in addition to, the Maxwell cohort, you're with students from all over the country coming for the semester in DC, and you're meeting them as well. So I think a lot of us were able to like make other friends outside of the program in addition to the friends that we had in the program, and that was a unique experience. I was interning with the Gender Policy Council at the White House, so I was assisting with their global team, economics team, and strategy team. They do have three other teams, which are more, gender policy, that you might think of, like gender-based violence and other things along those lines. It was me and one other intern, and we each worked for three teams. So that was great just because it was really one of us with each team. So we really got to specifically focus on those things. But again, I was consistently supported by the Maxwell School in classes. I was able to talk specifically to Professor Hack as she worked in the White House. So, having that perspective and mentorship from her was definitely helpful for me as I face certain challenges or face certain excitements. So I think the teachers and a lot of their experience is helpful to you during your semester in DC. It's not always going to be smooth sailing. It'll be waves, but you'll make a lot of great friends, and you'll get very close with the cohort. We did little like Friendsgiving things, and game nights and fun things, and Nick and I complained together after econ, and so it's a fun time. It's definitely a fun time. It was one of my favorite semesters.
Yeah, and then for me, I had a pretty unique experience with the DC program in that I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland, which is right outside of DC. So I was able to just metro over to CSIS every day. And I also did a remote internship because FPRI, my think tank that I work for, is headquartered in Philadelphia, although it does events in DC, which I attended. And so on a general basis, FPRI only requires about 10 hours a week for interns, but for the DC program, we needed about 20. So that gave me a really good opportunity to talk with my supervisor, see what I can do outside of like the usual expectation for an intern. And then I think that really helped me make the most of my internship. And so what I did for that was I am not really able to work from home like I do best in an actual work environment. And a really good thing about the CSIS building that the DC program operates out of is they have a Syracuse Commons on the fourth floor of the building where we were able to do work. And so I just went up there every day to do my work for FPRI. And so that what it did in my role was basically at the end of the internship, we're able to have an article published in FPRI's website, as well as I did copy edits on a bunch of articles that were published on FPRI's website. And I still work actually. I extended my internship with FPRI. And what I do right now is I'm doing a data collection project on interactions between Japan and Southeast Asian nations, like intermilitary and Coast Guard capacity building exercises.
Chris, if I may just interject for a second, I
Yeah.
sense there may be some questions still about the extent to which students in the DC program are assisted with finding an internship.
Yeah, go for it.
So what I had helped with, there's a staff member in DC who works full time, reaching out to different people, asking if they need internships. She sends out a weekly memo. The second you get into the DC program, she sends you a weekly notification saying, these are the jobs I found this week that are open to Syracuse students. If you're an international student, this is what's available to you as well. Or they may not require citizenship. And then after, part of the reason why I didn't do too well in finding an internship is because it was like the summer, I kind of like just blew them away. But her name's Samantha. She's very helpful. The other big asset that Maxwell has in DC is our alumni network down there. There's an extensive alumni network who they are willing to engage with students, with current students, saying who reach out to them and say, I'm in DC. I know you're a Maxwell student like I am. Would you be willing to teach me about your expertise or things you do on a daily basis? This is what I'd like to be doing post graduation. You can give me a good idea of what that life is like, and most people are receptive to that. So I think though the Samantha Clements, her work in sending internships, and also the alumni network are two massive assets for Maxwell and DC.
I just want to interject here and answer one of the questions in the chat too, as it's just too long to type. I feel like, so basically, this program is for upperclassmen, but you have a fall and a spring of your junior year and a fall and a spring of your senior year. So when you get to campus, you're going to have an academic advisor and they're going to help you arrange your schedule in terms of your interests. Like coming in, I knew straight off the bat, I was like, I want to study abroad. I want to do Maxwell DC. So depending upon what you want to do, what clubs you're in, what classes you want to take, literally you have a person assigned to you who will help you organize all of those things and help you have the best chance possible at attending, an abroad or DC or New York or LA program, which you 99% of the chance will be admitted into. So it really is just dependent upon your schedule, what you want to do. But again, like sometimes you might choose, okay, I want to do Maxwell DC senior year, I want to do it junior year, but going at a specific time is really based upon your needs. There is no disadvantage to going at any specific time, but I can say, like, if you come here, like, you most likely, again, 99% chance will be able to do this program if you really want to. It just depends upon the semester and the time, how many people applied, when's the best time for you. Students do defer or apply again. So again, like, definitely don't let that scare you. And a lot of people, myself included, did back-to-back semesters abroad. Like I went to Strasbourg, France, as I said in the chat, and then I went to DC. And that's a very popular thing as well of trying to take advantage of going as many different places as you can. And through Syracuse, we have a really unique abroad program. But then you can also go to DC, New York, LA, depending upon major and what you're interested in too. So again, you'll work with an academic advisor, say, hey, this is the stuff I like. Here's some of what I want to do. And you're not going to know all of what you want to do once you get here. It'll change and talk to teachers, but you'll be guided. So you don't have to figure all of this out right now. Don't feel like you have to figure it out or let that, be your deciding thing. It's always here. And again, connecting with the staff, going to those information sessions, like they'll know, like, okay, so-and-so is interested in Maxwell DC. I'm going to look out for them, or I'm going to know. Like, so I remember one semester I wanted to do Maxwell DC since I got here. And they were in one of my classes and they were like, hey, we still haven't received your Maxwell DC application yet. When are you applying? I was like, I'm gonna go senior year. So like they remember who you are. So don't let that like scare you.
Yeah, very similar to, I'd say, all of our study abroad programs, sort of Maxwell and DC falling under what we call study away. Essentially, everyone that wants to complete this program during their time at Syracuse will have the opportunity to. So kind of like Megan was saying, it's going to fit into one of those semesters during your last 2 years. And so there is, like she said, pretty much almost every student that does apply to the program is accepted for that semester or the semester afterwards, depending on sort of how it fits into their academic plan. And to approximately how many students apply each semester, again, it's around, I would say, between 20 and 30. Most of them are accepted for the coming semester. And then it is possible then for many of those students to also participate in the following semester, just in order to sort of, a really big benefit to this program too is those small class sizes. So in order to keep those class sizes small, many students that apply, they're going to sort of cap it to maybe 20. I would say most I've seen is 22 or 23. But every student will be able to participate in the program at some point during their Syracuse experience, for sure. All right, and then everyone's favorite topic, and to me, this is actually personally, I love hearing sort of the stories because we have some really nice apartments for y'all to live in DC. And the great thing about this program, unlike some other programs you might see at other schools and universities, is that we have housing that is already set up for you and sort of reserved for all of our students. So you do not have to first apply to the program, apply to an internship, and have to be looking for housing during that as well. So these apartments are located, you're welcome to Google the name. I'll put it in the chat. It's 1301 Thomas Circle in Washington, D.C. There are some really great apartments within walking distance, not just to the Center for Strategic International Studies, but also I would say within great walking distance to any of the 5 metro lines in the city. So whether you work on Capitol Hill, up by Shady Grove, or maybe down even in Arlington or in Foggy Bottom, it's very easy to sort of get around. You're in such a really great location. Would love to hear what you guys thought about the housing experience and sort of what that was like. Also maybe talk about how roommate selection works or sort of that process as well, if that's one involved with it.
Yeah, I can speak to the location. I love being on, we're on 14th Street, or right off of 14th Street, which is a major road for, there are great restaurants on 14th Street. A popular restaurant we went to was Le Diplomat. It was like the occasional place because it can get a bit pricey. But there are a ton of food options on 14th Street. I think Shake Shack was the most popular destination for dinner. And as Chris said, it's easy to get around. We were walking everywhere, and while we were there, I think the pandas at the zoo were leaving to go back to China, so we were like sprinting over there, and we made it just in time. Well, a few of us made it just in time. The people who left, when people who left early got there, but yeah, I really enjoyed being in DC. Just because we get our free Metro card to go anywhere. That's a major plus. I thought we didn't have to pay an extra fee for transportation anywhere. It's take a bus up to Columbia Heights, take the bus down. You're not paying a cent out of pocket. Take the Metro anywhere you want. So I know that people would. Well, one person in the DC program loved thrifting, and so he was constantly taking buses out everywhere, and then he would gatekeep the information. You'd be like, "Oh yeah, you just take this bus." And you're like, well, tell me which place you're going to. I want to see what you get. But Ryan's a funny guy. Yeah, transportation was phenomenal. And then my roommates were very nice, all very smart people who I value very deeply now in my life. And yeah, they often serve as role models, right? They're smart people who I like to surround myself with. It's nice being around people who know what they're doing.
Can anyone touch, there's a question we just received about, are students on a meal plan? Are you sort of on your own for buying groceries and cooking? Sort of what are the facilities like for sort of food and dining there in the DC apartments?
I can take this one. So yes, unfortunately you are on your own, but so me and my roommates, one of my roommates was hilarious. She didn't know how to cook. We were like, oh my God. And me and my other 2 roommates both cooked. Wasn't an issue, but what we did was we did this thing called group grocery, and we would go to Trader Joe's all together on 14th Street every Sunday, and we would do like a shared grocery. We do like shared meals and different things like that. And we were making everyone else in the program jealous as we talked about different meals that we were making. But you definitely like, I feel like they do some of those things as well to like teach you in a scary way what adulting looks like. And since you're living with roommates, it really helps you just grow up in a sense and just get used to what that's going to look like. Because at some point you're going to be in an apartment either with someone or by yourself doing these things. So you definitely find ways of keeping it affordable. Trader Joe's was a really one of my roommates had like different discounts and had a membership. So it was definitely very beneficial and useful for us. It also was very, very close. Like Thomas Circle is close to 14th Street. So it was a very easy walk, roughly like 10 minutes, or we could take the bus. So yeah, it was fine though. I feel like, again, like the program is there to help you as well. Like most of the time, if there's like a professional development event, they provide dinner for you and you're there and you're eating. Also in class, I mean, Professor Hack would often like bring in donuts each class, which became a thing, and that was fun. And she would pay for it, which was a plus. But yeah, so you're consistently taken care of. They will always help you. And I feel like Aiden hit on something super important too, is the Metro card. Like the Metro card, having that ability to have a free Metro card to get anywhere in DC is so helpful. Like throughout the entire semester, you can get on the Metro, and that's mostly how you get around in DC. So that like takes up a lot of the cost or expenses with getting around. Like that was super helpful. I wish, for alums or future alums that we would have that access, but we don't. Uh,
Chris, can you answer this question? I still have the Metro card from last semester. Will it still work if I go down to DC?
I don't believe it should. There's supposed to be an expiration date tied to it. I mean, my
Oh.
recommendation would be go to DC and try it, and let me know if you can get on the red line all the way.
I was still able to use mine during the winter break back home. So as far as I know, it might not have expired, but no one tell Andrew London so he doesn't like cancel my access, because I love having that thing.
Andrew London is our director of the program, our interim director. He just joined this past semester, and he's been able to, I think one of his focuses too is really sort of building out the professional development part of the program. I know that when I did the program many years ago, that was not of a strong component of it, but it seems like you've all had some really awesome professional development opportunities during your time in DC. So that's really great to hear. So yeah, as I mentioned in the chat, there was a question about housing costs. The housing is about a little less than $600-800 for the semester. That is pretty typical with other on-campus housing options we have on main campus at Syracuse. And then there's a $500 administrative fee for the program to support professional development planning, types of events they would attend. Did you guys do outings to like a baseball game as well, or any other fun things like that? So fun events, and then also to cover the cost of the unlimited Metro Pass, which Megan alluded to is honestly a really big game changer. And then tuition that you're paying is the same price it would be as if you were on main campus. Great news though is that all of any financial aid, scholarships, anything you already currently have will also follow you to help cover the cost of the DC program as well. So whether you do this program, choose to go abroad, or on main campus, your financial aid package is going to go with you sort of anywhere that you are. All right. And so we just sort of talked about this. Additionally, I will also mention that there is funding available in the form of grants and work study. Correct me if I'm wrong, but on the brief application to the program, there is sort of a box to check to indicate if you're looking for financial assistance or additional funding. Is that correct? I'm seeing some head nods. Okay, awesome.
That's correct. One of my roommates was also interning. She was working for a nonprofit law firm, but she also had a work study job as well on campus. So, or not on campus, on the DC campus. So like yeah, so that's definitely transferable as well.
Awesome. And I love this slogan: live, learn, and intern in the nation's capital. That really sort of encapsulates the DC experience as a whole. All right, now I know we've sort of gotten through a couple of these questions already. One question that I have for each of you though, and folks in the audience, you're welcome to send in a few more. We do have about 5-10 minutes or so left. But wondering if you could each sort of tell us about maybe your favorite memory that you had from the program, whether it's internship, classes, professors, professional development, fun events. It was sort of an exciting time down in DC this past fall as well. So anything that really stood out to you as sort of the best memory from your time down there? I see Aiden working, so I think he's ready with an answer.
I mean, I can't understate how much I love the classes there. I really loved every single one of my professors and all the people in my classes. That being said, the first weekend I did crash a wedding at the Daughters of the American Revolution. So that was like it was a positive start to a good semester.
Wedding crasher.
Yeah, I mean, it was it finished at midnight. I started at 11:30, but hey, sometimes Britney Spears hits the speakers, and you just got to hit the dance floor.
Just got to see what's going on.
Hey.
I
Nick or
think for me, I'm gonna offer two memories if that's okay. One's very professional, which is through Bolton Armstrong's class. We had to write memos for the course. And so one of our very final projects for that class was presenting um, NSC briefings that we'd prepared over the course of the semester with a partner. And so just me and my partner doing our briefings after like all the work and research we'd done was super fulfilling. And was just like sort of the culmination of everything I'd learned about like writing for DC and researching for these types of memos. And so that was super rewarding. And then also you have the more partying side of things with my friend Carlos's birthday. We had basically everyone in the program get together, and then we went out to a bunch of bars, obviously 21 and up if you are over 21. And it's
you
just a
guys
wild time.
you
It's
guys
so
found
great.
people from Carnegie Mellon.
Carnegie Mellon,
There were people from Carnegie Mellon there. There were people from, what was it?
multiple schools.
There was a lot of people hanging around.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of other schools that also do DC programs. And so you might encounter them through your internships and then befriend them.
I'd say for mine, similar to Nick, it's like hard to choose one. So I'm gonna do two, kind of three and a half. I guess touching on Nick's point of like meeting people from other schools, I feel like the beauty of DC is the fact that like there's so many other schools in the area around. And then just because a lot of people are coming down for the fall or summer or spring or whenever you're there, like you're able to like meet all these other people from different schools. And so that was something that was amazing. But professionally, one of my favorite memories was shaking the president's hand at the turkey pardoning. I was able to do that. That was really cool. There was a really bad picture of me that they posted. Um, this lady ended up like she's pushing everyone in the crowd to get to him. So I'm someone who can have a tell-all face. So I just looked disgusted and it ended up them snapping, my disgust at the lady for pushing everyone to get to him. So that was the picture that they ended up going with. But that was a really cool moment. And then one of my second favorite memories is I'm someone who really likes bike riding and things like that. So I went actually with one of my friends from the White House internship and then another friend, Lane, who was in our Maxwell DC program. The three of us all went bike riding in Rock Creek Park, and that was super fun. And yeah, so it was fun. And like one of my friends, Lane, wasn't like a big biker, and then the other friend was a big biker. So we all like kind of figured out how to make that work. And we had a fun day. We got on the metro, we went biking, we went to grab food. And so yeah, like there's definitely lots of fun memories to be had, but then also Maxwell DC and your internships provide a nice introduction to adulting, the professional world, and interning in DC and what DC is like. And you meet all these people from all these other places and you expand your friendships and network circles. So I love DC, honestly.
Before I answer one of these questions, Nick, I thought you were going to talk about being invited to the Chinese embassy. You were invited over for like an exclusive event with a couple of people.
I should talk about that, huh? Yeah, so one of the great things we did for Fulton Armstrong's Friday class was we got to go visit the Chinese embassy as a group. And then Fulton followed up with some of the people that he knew had an explicit or specific interest in China, including myself, offering, because the embassy had reached out to him about this public event that they were inviting people to. And so a group of about 5 of us went to this event remind me who we spoke to at the embassy as like a whole
The
group,
minister
Aiden.
counselor.
So we met with the minister counselor in like the whole class meeting, but then this embassy event that I got to go to, the ambassador was speaking there. And so this group of like 5 of us went to this event, had really great food, learned about just like Chinese US relations, cross-cultural boundaries, and we got to actually meet and take a photo with the ambassador, which was really great.
I can knock out a couple quick questions here. Sophie asked, does this program still work for double majors? Yes. everybody's encouraged to apply for the Maxwell program. There are people who are in the DC program who are psychology majors, and they find value in that as well. It is not exclusive for political science students. It's not exclusive for civic engagement students, and it's not exclusive for policy study students. If you're a Whitman student and you want to go down, you want to have a grasp on public policy, you're welcome to apply. There's no exclusion there. What is the percentage of students that hear back from the organizations that they interned after they graduate? There's no concrete percentage on that because that's down to you and your internship coordinator. In my case, I was at the GAO. I had a good relationship with my coordinator, but after meeting with him a few times, we both understood that this is not the work that I want to be doing long term. And so he said, because this is human capital, essentially human resources, I have connections all over DC. So I've maintained that contact just as he can get me in and help me get into somewhere else that would be more appropriate for me. But there are also students who, they say, this isn't the place for me. I don't want to be in contact. So you can sever it there. But there are also students who say, I love what I did. I'm trying to get back there as soon as I'm out of school, and they maintain a contact. It 100% is dependent on how the student works out at the organization.
I'm just going to tag along and add really quick. I know we're almost at time, but one of our fellow, I don't know, people in our cohort, Dom, great guy. He decided he loved DC so much. He was interning for the State Department and he wanted to do it again so bad. So he literally is now at DC again. Like he's back in DC now. He's not like in the Maxwell DC program anymore because you only have the opportunity to do it once, but he literally is now just working in DC. So I feel like there's so many different advantages to the program, and they teach you literally how to network, what that means, meeting people. And so I mean, it just goes to show that he was like, I love this so much. I want to be in DC. And now, because of this program, he was able, and also his internship, to find, a new job in DC and be there and work there. So, yeah.
I know Chris, we're running out of time, and if people are still having questions, I can put my email in the chat. I'm happy to answer any of them.
Absolutely. I just put mine in there. So folks, if you haven't checked the chat, again, we are sort of about to wrap up here, but if you have any more questions after the session tonight, if you want to hear more from other students or specific questions, please reach out to myself. And I know some of our students are also voluntarily putting their emails in there as well. So any of the four of us are happy to answer questions. And if not, refer you to someone that can answer those questions for you. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for attending our session this evening. I have to say, personally, one of the most popular ones that we've had the past couple of weeks. And so it was really good to see the awesome turnout and really great engagement as well. Some really awesome questions. And yeah, we appreciate all of you. To those of you that were admitted for fall 2024, congratulations. For those of you that have sort of yet to apply, we look forward to hopefully seeing your application soon. And yeah, with that, I will sign off and say good evening, go Orange, and we certainly hope to see you in DC and at Syracuse very, very soon. So
go Orange. See you tomorrow, Chris.
See you tomorrow, Aiden.
Go Orange.
Thanks,
See you
everyone.
tomorrow, Chris. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.